like messenger bots.
Yes.
Like that segue?
Yeah, I love it, Keith. You're so smooth. Let's go in. Oh my goodness, Karen. I learned today that you like chatbots, and I love this conversation. Any person that understands that is forward thinking and has the customer, front and center. And so when I heard that you were a chatbot expert, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to pull your brain apart. What do you know about chatbots?
Yeah, and to be honest, I learned about them from one of my former students. So she was the founder of a chatbot agency here on the Sunshine Coast, and their first big job was with one of our local councils to create it was like a city that was a person. So with chatbots, wherever they were, people or tourists or locals could ask questions about different parts of the city, and they would get an answer on Messenger about it, and links to different restaurants, and they could even book restaurants using the Messenger chatbot. So everything was sort of linked, and to create like one sort of uniform but really customized user experience for them. So it was like chatting to the city and working out what you're going to do and the fun you will have in that city. So that was really great. And then she went over to the States, and she was actually it's getting so developed now that she was working with script writers in LA on the dialogue, because just to make that dialogue so nuanced and to make it the experience even better. Because I don't know if you've ever chatted to a bit of a clunky chatbot, and it's very obvious, and you ask the same thing and it gives you the same answer over and over, and you get a little frustrated. But where she was trying to work past that. One of the other jobs she did, she was working on a tequila brand, and they had a campaign where there were 3 campaign characters, and each of them had a Facebook page. They weren't real people, but they each had a Facebook page, and people could actually chat to them using the messenger bot to just get another layer to that experience and interaction with the brand. So sometimes it's even more than just selling or answering what time are you open questions. It's actually having really, I guess, having someone interact with that brand personality, and it can be fun and interesting and entertaining, and it just adds to that experience.
I'd imagine that would really make that tequila brand stand out in a crowded market full of tequila brands.
Absolutely. I think that was the first time it was really done for a brand, a tequila brand or even with many marketing campaigns to actually use chatbots in that way.
I have to say, isn't there a tick box that you have to prove that you're 18 or older when signing up for Facebook? How did the bot get its own account?
I think obviously the
I know, I'm just joking.
They were over 18. Their characters were all over 18 because they were
Well, robots are now, and they have rights. The first rights for robots came out.
Do you
have any thoughts on that, Karen? Do you think that robots could, have Facebook profiles and have their rights as robots to, answer questions? And
I think the technology is still quite clunky, but I think anything's possible in the future. Because did you see, I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but I remember there's this sort of urban legend going around, and I've heard speculation saying it did happen and it didn't happen, but I think it was Facebook, they developed some AI, and the 2 sort of robots started to talk to each other in their own language.
Yeah.
I did hear this. Yeah.
That happened. That's real.
So I've heard someone say, I've heard other people say that.
It's not a myth. It's not a myth.
So, that's and this is at the very clunky stage of the technology. Can you imagine as we develop, anything's possible.
Totally. Keith, what are your thoughts on that? What do you think? Do you think there should be a human at the end saying hello? This is how you get to Main Street, or can it be a bot in that scenario?
I think the market will determine that.
Yeah.
I personally like to ring people.
Yeah.
I personally like to be served in a coffee shop by a real person. I personally like that. Yeah. So I would choose to go to a shop that serves me coffee. I don't want to get it dispensed from a wall. Yeah. I love the experience, because I love cafes. That's one of my favourite little hobbies. I'll go to a cafe and I'll sit in the back and I'll just listen to some music and maybe work off my laptop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's quite a sort of entrepreneurial thing to do. And but I like the idea that a real person takes my order.
Mm-hmm.
But that, so as a person in the world, I would vote for that. But I guess it would probably be what the market determines. If people are prepared to take coffee from a wall and put a coin in a slot to get a piece of cake out of a machine, if they're prepared to do that, and they don't value the human interaction, then that won't become a differentiator.
Yeah, it's such a great point, Keith, because I listened to this interview just yesterday, and it's a radio show host in the tech space, and he was talking about Google Assistant and how the Google Assistant, first of all, sounds so much like a human, and he's even using and pauses to really sound like a human. And the radio DJ really made a great point that it's okay if you're going to use a robot, say it's a robot. Don't pretend like it's a real person. Once you've hacked the realness of a person and you say that a robot is a person, it's almost crossing over the line of who we want to engage with. Because I do think that there's a whole section of people that are like you, Keith. They want to still engage with humans. They don't really want robots in those places. And we have so much power to, we could put our money where our mouths are and pay with our voice with, if you're going to put a robot in there making my coffee, well, I'm going to go to the guy next door who has a human behind the desk.
As an example, when I go to Woolworths, I'm old school maybe. When I go to Woolworths, I like to get my shopping checked out by a real person.
Me too.
That's a choice I make. I could line up and get it all done and put it in a bag and go, hey, click, click, click. Would you like a receipt with that? Click. You got your rewards card? Click. I could do that, and plenty of people do that.
Yes.
But I just choose that the shopping, it's a banal activity, but the shopping is a chance to interact. Yes. Okay, there's a person there. She gets my shopping done. She or he puts it in a bag. Hello, how you doing? Are you studying? What are you studying? Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
So as soon as that becomes a process that's not valued anymore, then people go, mate, why are you doing that? Just line up there. You're in half the time. Mm-hmm. 3 people went through by the time it took you to talk to that woman about what she's doing on the weekend. Yeah, I know. But I was talking to her. Yeah. The point of the process was to talk to her. Yeah, that's funny coming from me, the quintessential guy who lives on his phone. But the point is that if the market dictates that they'll accept that a chatbot or a robot can serve their coffee or fix their car, then people will do it.
Yeah.
But if people come back and say, you know what, I'm a person and I have money to spend, and I want to spend it in a shop that sells coffee, served to me by a real person, and the cake is handmade and it's lovely.
Yeah.
I love that.
With chatbots, though, the main demographic that they're aiming them at and that is using them is millennials. The millennials. Yeah. Because if you look now, like millennials, in that age group that they say are millennials, I'm not big on those sort of demographic stereotypes, but they're saying that they aren't big Facebook users. However, they'll use Messenger. They'll use WhatsApp. They're big on like Messenger, social media functions and apps. And so the aim is to get them into Facebook and not have to leave. So eBay has an amazing Messenger bot where you can say, I would like just talk to it. I would like a blue shirt with white stripes, and it'll go off in this size. It'll go off and find it for you and bring it back to you.
Wow. Karen, you make such a great point. It's so interesting. I've been in this industry for 20 years. So I've seen it from I got a degree in this like 20 years ago when Google wasn't even around. Yeah. So I've seen the industry completely mature and everybody's using digital now. And it's almost like the generation that started my age and older, they can't be convinced of robots, because like what Keith was saying, we still like that human touch. But you bring up the same point that I had with somebody else a few days ago, that we were talking about Google Home. And because we were talking about how I don't watch TV anymore, and my daughter doesn't watch TV anymore, so she's not in front of commercials. And so he was saying, yeah, my kids are not in front of TV anymore either. They're in front of YouTube. And I'm like, that's so funny. So is mine. And they now know skip ad. You know, they don't know commercial. They know skip ad. And so his businesses that he works with targets the same generation, millennials and younger, because they're being programmed to use these features of this technology because it's instant access. And I feel like they're in some way getting a little bit hijacked from the benefit of having a human help them, because it's those little moments, those moments that Keith talks about, having those small conversations with people, the coffee man, the mailman, the person at the grocery store, that could really lift someone's spirits in bad times or in happy times. So much energy is passed between humans that's going to stop when we get...
That's a great idea. That's actually exactly why I do it.
Yeah.
My routine is that on Fridays, I dedicate a time to, because my wife works full-time in the city, I work from home. So my routine is that I make sure that the house is full of food and that the car is full of petrol, so that she gets home from a busy day in the city. So I make a point of that. I go and have a coffee. I go to the supermarket. I could buy all my food online.
Yeah.
I could go to Woolworths online or whatever it's called, and it would turn up in a truck in a box. I could do that. But I choose to, and this is where we're talking about where the society will go.
Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, I want to share the exact opposite story. My dad loves John Clark, that really funny guy who just recently died, and he wanted some John Clark DVDs with him speaking, impersonating famous politicians. And so I went to the ABC shop, who doesn't have a shop anymore.
Yes, that's
and
right.
I went online.
Yeah.
As I was talking to my dad on the phone, because we still talk on the phone, I'm talking to my dad on the phone, and as we're talking, I've ordered it, and it came in 3 days. Right? I ordered it as we were speaking. I paid with PayPal, and I ordered it, and it was sent to my post office box. I didn't have to drive there. I didn't have to find a park. I didn't have to ask them if they had it. I didn't have to wait in line. Mm-hmm. And it was so convenient for me, because I had a very specific need, and that's what you're talking about, Karen, a very specific need. I wanted a John Clark DVD for Father's Day. That was the point. Yeah. There was a particular present I wanted to buy and a particular day I wanted to have it by, and I wanted to do it efficiently. Mm-hmm. So in that way, that's what millennials are thinking. Okay, sure, I miss out on the joy of talking to the girl about what course she's studying and how old her daughter was and did she have a lovely weekend. But the point is that I want this DVD because I'm going to Albury on Saturday and I need it in a hurry, and I haven't got time for pleasantries. Mm. I wonder if those two things are at direct opposite to each other.
I just hope we still have choice. I think hopefully there's always the choice where you need something quickly, you can get it, but if you have the time, you can take the time, and still interaction. So I think,
and we still do have that process now, don't we? I can get a coffee from a real person, but I can also get a DVD from the ABC shop.
Yeah. And I think it's the mindset as well of I get a lot from people. But I haven't been brought up my whole life with technology. So the person that's been brought up their whole life, you're saying, may go to the store, but not engage with the human, because they're just not conditioned to do that. The person that's a millennial will probably engage more with the robot at the grocery store than they would a human.
Yeah,
so it's almost like the upper people that really do care about humans need to save the human. Well, I don't know. But I want to mention something very important in regards to robots and automation.
Yeah.
And this is coming from my wife, who works in the city, and her job is to make sure that her department, and this is very important that we frame it this way, her job, what she's paid for, is to make sure that the department of 12 people runs efficiently. Mm-hmm. She's not there to make friends. She's not there to talk to the girls about what they did on the weekend. She is judged by her boss on how efficiently the unit runs as a whole. So when she comes home, she goes, 3 people sick today, and someone's off, and someone wasn't feeling well, and they went home early, and someone had a fight with someone else. We got nothing done today. And I said, you just need a few robots in there, because she's judged not on human contact, on output.
That's right.
Productivity. How much can she get done in any given hourly, hour of time? And when the boss says, "Oh, mate, you didn't get much done today," says, "Yeah, I know, we had 3 people away and such is fighting with such and such, and person doesn't like them, and they took a sickie, and someone disappeared for 2 hours at lunchtime. I can't control that." Yeah. Human things.
Yeah.
My wife is the biggest case study about robots in the history of the world, because she can't get anything done because the people get in the way.
Yeah. Yes. That's so true. I think that's a very good point. And the fact that all those people are sick, arguing about personal, stuff, they're not focused at the job either. So they need to be replaced by robots. So I get that your wife needs a robot on her team. There is a time and a place for a robot. And I'm sure, Dr. Karen, with your workload, you could probably use a robot.
I was just going to say, I just came back from a conference on computer-supported education over in Portugal, and there was research shown about a university in the United States where they had 2 chatbots on the academic staff, but they were just to answer simple, like I get a lot of emails like, when is this due? What's the word length? These sorts of questions that's all in the course guide, but, asking questions. And so they had like a male and a female chatbot answer these questions, but they didn't tell the students that they were chatbots. And so these chatbots also contributed to online discussions. And at the end of the semester, they surveyed the students to say, did you know this was a chatbot? So the male chatbot, they could tell. The male, only 10% knew it was the male chatbot wasn't a real person, but about 60% knew that the female wasn't a real person, because I think a man wrote the scripts for both. So I think the nuances is slightly different. But only 10% picked the male chatbot, so they thought it was an academic staff member. So that says a lot for us. But I think it would be helpful. But I think you always need to have that sort of link in there, or email address or something, to send that person to a real person when they get to a point where they can't answer their question anymore. Because you can't preempt every single question that someone's going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there are a lot of generic questions that can be answered efficiently.
Absolutely. And things that you communicate many ways, but sometimes people won't look at that stuff. They just want to talk. You get that direct question. They don't want to wade through things. And I think that's where chatbots are good. They can ask a direct question and then give the direct answer to that.
Have you ever been on the phone? This is a human thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on the phone and someone says, we're really, really busy at the moment, but if you go to www, blah, 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 we consult. And I keep saying to the phone, if I was actually okay with that, I would be there now, and I would be hanging online for 23 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm hanging online because I want to talk to a real person.
Yeah. Totally.
Can you just tell me if it was a real person?
Hey, I have a thought. Maybe we put it in this perspective that robots, if they can help with your workload and be more efficient at work, that's good. But if you're going to put a robot in an experience that I'm going to spend money on, that's bad. Because we pay money for an experience. And if you take out of that experience, then you're just paying money for no reason. I don't know. I don't think.
Yeah. It's a very good point, and it's so fascinating that we've morphed from standing out on social media to the technology, because they are related. Because in a world where automation, and that's exactly what you're talking about there, you can automate your whole social media profile and don't even have to be there. But what happens? Nothing. No engagement. Maybe someone gets the sense that you're there, but someone might ask a question, but there's no one there to answer it.
Right.
So you've got to have a balance, haven't you? You can't live on social media 24/7 and do everything organically. Yeah. I'm sure, Karen, you can't be bothered with these. When's the class today? It's at 10 o'clock. I told you that 3 weeks ago, and I told you 2 weeks ago, and I told you yesterday. It's at 10 o'clock. You just wear out from doing those banal things. Yeah. But if someone has a really chunky question, chapter 3, I'm really having a bit of trouble with this, this subplot. No worries. Let's have a chat about that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm paid for and it's what I'm good at.
But an interesting fact that's actually happened, it was announced at the end of March. So with Facebook, because that was where the biggest growth in Messenger, in the bots, biggest growth. But because of the whole Cambridge Analytica scandal, they've actually paused the development of new bots So I haven't heard any announcement that pause has been lifted yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So all the existing bots can work, but they've no new bots at the moment. Yeah. So
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have some thoughts on this, Terry or Dick? Do you want to pop your head in and ask some questions of Karen before I'm guessing you have to go. Do you need to go?
Stay till 11 and then.
Well,
11.
First of all, nice meeting you, Keith, and nice meeting you, Karen. I've really been sitting here taking it all in and learned a lot. It's all very interesting. The only thought that I would have on the robots is you have to keep an open mind. It was 2004 that there was a study that said that if you drive a vehicle, you got a secure job, because driving a vehicle was so incredibly complicated, we would never be able to program a computer or robot to perform that function. Well, you know, automated cars are just around the corner here. So 2004 is not that long ago. So, you know, robots may not be very humanistic now, but in 20 years they could be pretty human-like.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
I agree, Dick. And your point earlier with regards to the self-service through the checkout, one of my friends' perspective was quite interesting on that. He said, well, I won't go there because they don't discount the price. They want me to do it myself. I expect to get a price reduction. And so I think there can be this expectation too, if you're dealing with a robot or some automation, that it should actually be a lower cost, potentially a lower cost transaction than what I would normally have.
So there's a value proposition there that talking to the person adds value.
No, I think so. I think so. For some people, everybody's
not talking to the person doesn't add value.
I think to Dick's point, I mean, keeping an open mind with regards to bots, at this point in time, I think there's a real absolute place for bots, and I think there's a place for people. In 20 years' time, who doesn't?
You know what, like, I loved what Keith was saying about valuing the human connection, because, you know, I've been watching a lot of futuristic stuff and just realizing that is so important. Without the human connection, we're not actually being humans. You know, we don't really want to turn ourselves into robots. But then at the flip side of that is to be able to use that technology to, I guess, reduce the need for unnecessary time waits. So if you do your online shopping, that creates more time to spend with your family or close connections. But it's so important to be nurturing those connections. And that was, I sort of had a question about, you know, balancing that time that you put in online to, I guess, build your audience or build relationships online, but then sometimes that can also come at a cost, because then you can get caught up on this continually going back on and answering questions, or trying to, you know, you don't want to be rude, so you're trying to have a conversation online, but then that can sometimes mean that, you know, you are taking away time that could be spent in front of your people that are your family. That sort of.
Do you want to answer that one, Karen? Do you have a perspective on the time versus automation thing?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. A lot of the decisions I make are based on time, as I think Keith has discovered with me. So, you know, even at the supermarket, I will definitely go to the checkout person if I have the time. If I don't have the time and I have to get out, I will just do it myself. And you're right, Melissa. I think you know, you want that engaging content, but then it's that double-edged sword of then you have to engage, like, so people engaging, but yeah, then you have to interact with them, because social media is a two-way medium. So you're right. I think it's going to be a balancing act for everybody. And I honestly, I don't have any advice on that, unless, like, if it's a business, having multiple people that you can share the load, I think is a good idea. But when you're a sole operator, yeah, it's tough. Like, it's really tough. And I think maybe just giving yourself certain time periods during the day that you're on, and then other periods that you're off, and really trying to stick to that, unless there's some sort of issue or crisis going on, when of course you need to be very present for that.
Yeah, I've got some ideas. Do you want to talk about this, Sheena, or?
What's that?
I've got some solutions for this exact scenario.
Yeah, let's talk about solutions.
There's two very major solutions that you can use straight away: Zoom and Twitter chats. Now, those two things are opposite to each other, because Twitter chats don't have visual, but Twitter chat is basically a Zoom without a Twitter chat, without a video, and a Twitter chat is basically a Zoom without video. So Zoom is great. Every week at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, we have this Twitter chat or this Zoom chat, and you can ask us anything you want, and we're 100% here. And we turn it into little videos and we send it out, and there's a connection with our community. We're 100% here during this time. So that one thing that I've noticed with people is they segment their time and let their tribe know, I'm here at this time. You can do it in a video format with Zoom, or you can do it on what's called a Twitter chat. Basically what you do is you create a hashtag and say, just everyone use that hashtag whenever they ask a question, and we'll pick it up with a piece of tech, tweetchat.com maybe, and it just comes up in a line and go, Melissa's asked a question, and you just segment it. 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, we ask a series of questions on Twitter, no visuals. I've got a question about chatbots. No worries. What's your question? And then they have a guest and the person answers the question, but only for 1 hour once a week. So if someone says, it's Wednesday, 3 p.m., mate, I'm at the supermarket. Sorry, I can't answer that question now because I'm having a chat to this girl about her studies. So please don't bother me. And what it's a way of sort of segmenting it to say, I am very engaged, but I'm also a person with a wife and friends and a life.
Yeah.
And I do that deliberately. You know, I sometimes blur the lines, but I give my tribe specific time. That's why I'm building this idea of Zoom chat up so much, because I want everyone to come in at one time. It doesn't suit them to come in at that time. That's no worries. We've got replays for that. Yeah. So the other story I wanted to share, this is my favourite story in the world ever about time management. I won't mention the guy's name, but he's very famous. He was getting $10,000 a gig to speak, talking about time management. But he would speak, he would fly there, he would stay overnight, he would fly home. He was speaking once a week, 10 grand a time, 500 grand a year, 500 grand a year. But his wife said to him once, never home. I love that we've got 2 cars and 3 houses and, you know, we're going on holidays every year, but you're never home to be with the kids. When do I get to see you as you? Why don't we just hang out one night and watch TV? I never get to see you. So what he did, exactly the same thing. Once a month, he does 1 hour. The same thing he would have put into that conversation that he flew to Dallas or to Austin or to Washington, because he's from America. And he used to speak every week. But there's themes that come up every week. So what he did, he still speaks, but not as often. He then, once a month, he locks out a period of time where anyone can ask him anything. But it's very, very controlled. And what that means is that when that finishes, he can go and have tea with his wife. He can help his kids with their homework. You know, he can have weekends off and play golf. Yeah, he's not always on a plane. And coincidentally, I won't share the figures, but he's making equally, if not more money with that model. So it's not a money thing. It's a time thing. Does that help, Melissa? Does that give you some ideas?
What about customers, though? What if they're like, I will, I want to spend money with you, and if you don't answer me right now, I'm going to...
Can I say, I think that's right prime for a chatbot or like chat metrics. You know, our solution enhances the customer journey. And I think going back to just finalizing the chatbot conversation, because I love it so much, I think there is a time and a place for a robot, and there's a time and a place for a human. But if that service is enhancing the customer journey, it's good. It's a positive thing. Like, you know, when the chatbots that are on the website, they're there for the customer. If the customer has a question or, you know, just having that on the website, it doesn't matter if it's human or if it's a robot, that alone is helping the customer journey. And that's what I love. I love that it's optimizing the customer journey. It's a good thing. And then something that we do that differentiates is that we reach out and we have engaging conversations with traffic. And that is even a better experience. Yeah. So I know we're going to see chatbots, and, you know, I've seen industry reports and people talking, that chatbots are popping up all over the place, and that's great if it's enhancing the customer journey. And if it's not, I don't want to be replacing a human to do whatever the job is. I think that's where we need to just think, can a human do this? Because at the end of the day, we're bartering our skills, and something that, you know, a coffee barista, I mean, that's a skill that is, and sometimes learned over a long period of time, that yes, a robot can do like that. But if that person is educating and spending time in their skill, and if, you know, and we have to honor that's their barter. That's how they're going to be making money, and that's how they're surviving. And if they're going to survive on this skill, well, then no, a robot shouldn't be replacing that. And I think we all need to be conscious of that, you know, really conscious, because our generation, we may, you know, like a robot, not like a robot, whatever we think about in this generation, they're not targeting us. We're going to be the ones that are either going to say yay or nay with what's going to be established over the next 20 years. And right now, our voices are really going to matter. And it's that thin line of, can a human do this? And if so, then no, we don't want a robot. And if it's helping, you know, Carol, Keith's wife, and if it's helping Dr. Karen, if it's helping you with workload, yes, bring in 5 robots. Yes, we need efficient people. And if they're going to be calling in sick, and if they're going to be, you know, complaining about their relationship issues, then replace that person with a robot. Don't replace the people that are caring about their jobs and putting life and soul into our lives, you know. That's just my 2 cents on where we should draw the line.
I think it's a good balance.